Hey, this is Stephanie.
And I'm Nina.
And you're listening to Live by the Spirit podcast.
Hello.
Hi.
Welcome back to the podcast. I don't know what accent that was. I'm sorry for anybody who heard that.
It's okay. It's been a while since we sat down and recorded. It was last
Sunday.
Yeah, so it was over a week ago.
A week and a half ago. That's crazy.
I know. How has your week been going?
It's been crazy.
Yeah.
I've had somebody in town with me for the last 7 days.
Yeah.
Not the same person, but I've had people staying at my apartment for the last week.
Yeah.
So it's been like, I feel like I haven't had time to myself.
And we had Memorial Day. Anything else crazy? Why did I think something else crazy happened? I can't remember.
I don't think anything else really crazy happened.
No, I don't think so.
But yeah. How's your week been?
How has my week? This current week has been slow so far with work. Last week was a little crazy. Nothing like I couldn't handle. Yeah, Memorial Day was so much fun. Just getting to hang out with everybody at the pool, and even I'm just so blessed I get to work from home, because it was like last Friday, for instance, we went over to Nina's and I got to lay out while working and get to the pool, get a tan.
I feel like the pool has been our new thing. We've
I know.
been to the pool so much.
I was making jokes with one of our friends the other day, and I was like, I love that we finally start going to Nina's more right as she's moving out.
I know. Literally, everybody started coming to my apartment to swim midway through May. It was like the end of May, and I leave. I mean, I'm officially done with that apartment at the 30th. Yeah. So it's like crazy now, because everybody's like, let's hit the pool. I'm like, do it while you can, honestly.
Yeah, well, it's like oh my gosh, I just blew my nose, and it's always when we go to record that I become
it's so weird
congested. But it's always when I talk a ton that I become congested, I should say, because of allergies. But I have 2 pools here at my apartment complexes, but they're relatively small, and they were supposed to open 2 weeks ago, and they keep pushing back the opening date. I see the salts that they need to put in the pool. They have it at the pool. They just don't have anyone cleaning the pool and doing it, and it's irritating me.
That's so crazy.
But I really wouldn't go to my pool alone anyways. But it's like, it irritates me, because it's like, if there is a day where you're busy and people do want to do a pool, it's like I have the pool here, and it's just like, I can't win.
But, it's sad. We only have a few more days it's like 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks of the pool almost.
Yeah, but hopefully your next pool is already open.
You do need a tissue.
I do need a tissue. Can we pause for a second?
Yes, we can pause for
I'm so sorry, viewers.
To be continued. And we're back.
Sorry.
Hope you enjoyed that commercial break.
I have put nose spray in my nose, which I know is not good for your nose, but I'm like, whatever I need to do to get through this episode. Allergies are so bad now.
It's crazy.
Welcome to Nashville. So sorry if you hear me blowing or whatever, like blowing my nose.
All right. So this week we have a bit of a heavier topic, I feel like, but I think it is something that is beneficial to talk about, especially for you. And I think that you have a lot that you can say about this, because you've personally gone through this more than I have. And also with people who are way closer to you than I have. So yeah,
it's a fun topic for sure.
This week we're talking about what?
We're talking about loss.
How to deal with loss.
If I'm being honest, I normally kind of write out what I'm going to say in an episode, and I don't know if it was me just procrastinating it, because there's times where I really do like talking about it, and other times where I don't. And I think because the summertime can be really difficult for me, I think I just procrastinated writing it out. So I'm just hoping that the Lord just helps guide me in conversation of how to guide this. Because it's not an easy topic, and I'm a person that I use humor to cope, and it makes people very uncomfortable. And I don't mean it to. And it's so funny because it's like when you do meet those people that like also use humor to cope, it's like finally you found like your people. Like I had a friend in college, and I won't name names, but I had a friend in college who lost her father very like abruptly. And she's very similar to me where she uses humor to cope. And then we had another friend also, we were all in student council together, where he had lost a family member within the like a year or so before that. And he also uses humor to cope. And so we ended up, this is going to sound so bad, but to us, it's what helped us. We formed a dead family society.
Oh my God.
Something like that, dead family member society. And it was just like because we knew the three of us could joke about it. And
you all understood
and have comfort in it.
Yeah.
And so it's like if I made a comment about like, oh well I don't know, my mom's dead, they would laugh because they knew that I needed that. And like they would make a comment. It's like, well, my dad's dead. And so it's just like having that. It's like I can't say that with normal people because it makes things awkward. I hate saying this, but sometimes we'll like people start saying your mom or something like that. I just like sometimes I'm like, please say it to me. Please say it to me. Because then they can be like, my mom's dead.
And I feel like with our group of friends, they would have zero clue what to do when it comes to that situation.
It's happened before.
I'm glad I've never been there for that.
And it's definitely happened before.
I've never been there for that.
It happened a decent amount in college. I'm sure Jonah had been there for a couple of them. I doubt he would have said any of it. And it's like the instant regret or the realization of it is it's like it's heartbreaking. To me, it's not like I'd still like I be careful what you say around certain people, please. So it's like, but it's like I know the heart of our friend group. I know the heart of the people that love me. And I know it's not an intentional thing. Yeah. I remember the first time it happened to me, though, it was maybe 3 or 4 months after my mom died, and I was back at school, and some girl said it to me at the lunch table, and I just looked at her, and it was like the realization hit, and it was just kind of like the table got silent, and I was just like, I don't know what to say because I'm sad. That hurt. And now it's just like, I don't even know. It's like it depends who it is. Yeah. Because there's some people out there in the world who I have still really big insecurities with. I know I'm getting off topic and I keep talking a lot, so please chime in. I don't want this to be all about me talking. You're good. But this is kind of off topic. It was so funny. The other day I was at Raising Cane's with a few of our friends. And someone brought up going to like a 10-year high school reunion or something like that. And I made a comment. I was like, I don't want to go to my high school reunion unless I'm married. And it was like me and 3 boys. And they were like, but why? And I was like thinking to myself, I was like, why? And then I realized it was because whenever I see, and this is no offense to anybody I graduated with, whenever I see someone, and again, I live in the town I went to high school in, so I run into people every now and again. I go back to being that insecure girl again. And so it's like almost like having like a point to prove. It's like none of you guys wanted to date me.
But look who I got
now. Even though I'm very single. But it was like kind of like that. And so I think sometimes in the regard of loss or like in situations like that, when I come to joke with people or something like that, or if it's somebody that I feel very insecure around and they make a joke, it really stings. But if it's someone that like that's all in my head, that's my choice. But
yeah, and I mean, I can speak from the other side of that, and I feel like sometimes it's like not the instant realization of like, I don't always have that in the back of my mind being like, if somebody's making a comment, I'm like not automatically thinking about it because it's not something that's like happened specifically to me like that. You know what I mean? So in my head, I'm not automatically thinking, oh yeah, we can't make a joke like that because it's not something that's directly related to me. If that makes any sense.
No,
not that I'm being like not that I'm not caring about being empathetic towards other people.
Well,
but
you don't have the realization yet, and I hope you don't for a very, very, very long time. Yeah. And it's like I can't even remember a time before that where I would make your mom jokes, but it's like, I don't know.
Doesn't happen a lot.
Yeah, but it is crazy because it's like when it does happen to you, it's like it hits you all at once.
Yeah.
Um,
And I'm sure that that's like, obviously, this is me speaking from not losing my mom, but like losing other people in my family. Over time, it gets easier, but it still never stops hurting.
My favorite quote, and I think I might have said this on the podcast. I've said this before in like some form of a video and stuff like that. But my favorite quote was this lady on a TED Talk. I wish I remembered what her name was. She said, she was talking about how she lost her first husband and all this stuff. And she said, now I'm blanking on it. You'll never get over it, but you can move forward. Yeah. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And people don't realize this, particularly people that really haven't gone through grief, because I can express, like, I lost grandparents and stuff like that before, but I was never very close with any of my grandparents. So it's like, oh, my grandma died. That's really sad. But it's like, I didn't necessarily go through a grief period. Or like, I've lost all my grandparents at this point, and it's like I can't really remember going through any big grief period with anyone. I remember when my dad's brother died, it's like kind of same thing. I didn't really have a very strong relationship with him, so I didn't really feel like I could grieve just because I didn't know him. And so it was just like, oh, this, it's like, I hate saying, like, describing like this, but it's just like a random person or congregation that I don't hang out with. Like, I know who they are and I talk with them, but it's like almost like that. But I don't know where I was going with this. I lost my train of thought.
You were talking about how they weren't as close with you versus somebody that is very close to you, like your mom.
Oh, yes. Now I know where I'm back at. So for me, it was like, yeah, you grieve and then you get over it and then you move on. When you lose someone as close to you as a parent or a sibling or if you have a friend that's almost like family, you realize that grief will never leave. It's your choice, though, how much you hold on to so much of it.
Yeah, like, are you going to sit in it?
Yeah.
Or are you going to move on, like you were saying?
Yeah. It says in the Bible, there is a time to grieve, there's a time to mourn, time to dance, all that good stuff. And, like, it was King David who danced in the streets when he was mourning or something like that. I don't remember who it was. I think it was David.
I think so.
But it's just, like, stories like that. Like, it, and God, and the thing, I was about to say the funny thing, it's not funny. God mourns with us. God doesn't want to see our hearts break. At the same time, he's so overjoyed to have someone back in the kingdom of heaven with him.
Yes.
But he mourns with us. And so that kind of brings a little bit more comfort in it. I would say my biggest piece of advice to anyone who is, forming relationships with God and they lose someone closely with them, it's the hardest thing to do, because I can speak from experience, but don't blame God.
Yeah.
It was not God who killed your family member. It's not God that killed your friend. It was not God's fault. Now, yes, God does have power to bring people back from the dead. God does have power to bring healings and stuff like that. I can't tell you why God doesn't do it. It's the simple question of why does God let bad things happen to good people? I can't tell you that. I don't think anyone can tell you that. What I can tell you is when I've gone through trials, I haven't lost anyone that close to me, thank God, since then. But my reaction back then when I was 16 and I, was not very strong in my faith, was to blame God. I knew God was there. I didn't think he was just. I remember screaming at him and all these things. I would encourage you to do the polar opposite of what I did. And when you lose somebody or you go through a hard trial, the first thing you need to do is praise God. And I'm a 7 on the Enneagram. I'm a pretty positive person. I'm a glass half full kind of a girl, if you will. And so it's like thinking of what the Lord blessed you with that person. It's like, well, I can think now when I praise God for my mom. It's like I had 16 years with the strongest woman I've ever met, with the most confident woman I've ever met. She taught me so many life lessons that I will teach to my kids, that I carry with me now. And then I also think, wow, I don't remember how old she was, in her 50s when she died, but I don't remember her exact age. But it's like, wow, she made such a big impact in the short amount of time she was here. And it's like, how can I carry that on? How can I do these things? So it's like, my mom was a big animal person. So it's like, I try to when my friends are talking about animals and I'm like thinking back to what my mom would say and just help education and different things like that. My mom loved volunteering. And so it's like I find opportunities now to serve like she would, different things like that. But it's like still carrying on a legacy for her. I feel like that's honoring, because even when your parent is passed, you're still one of the highest commandments is to honor your father and mother. So I'm still trying to honor my mom in different ways. So praise God through it, and just like it's gonna be hard, but just know that it's not God's fault. God's still with that person, and that was something that took me years to realize. I watched the movie The Shack that's based off of the book, and I won't get into it, but but that to me is the biggest revelation for me of understanding loss and where God was and that. So I don't want to get into it. If you would like to read the book or watch the movie, I'd highly suggest it. It's very emotional. Just know very emotional. It's not like an easy watch, particularly if you lose someone as close as like my mom was to me. So yeah. But anyways, that's my first piece of advice. So praise God. That's the number one thing you need to do. And now, even though I went through that trial when I was 16, but now and I had a rocky relationship getting back, I now praise God in it. Because again, like I said, grief will follow you all the time. So it's like when I get sad, it's like, thank you, God, for the mom I had, and still praising God through it every single day. You said this earlier. And again, I'm sorry I'm talking the most.
It's okay.
I lost my train of thought again.
What was I saying earlier?
Oh, dwelling.
Yes.
Dwelling is the biggest thing that I had to learn. Because I remember so many times driving home from college, calling my dad, sobbing my eyes out, being like, I'm just so sad. I miss mom so much. Like, I can't believe we're having to have another Christmas, another Thanksgiving without her. And my dad's like, you're sitting there dwelling. Stop dwelling. And I was like, I'm not dwelling. I'm sad. I'm allowed to miss my mother, father. Like you don't get it. Like, and all this stuff and like all that. Now I'm older, slightly more wiser, more connected with God. And I understand what I was doing. I'd be in my car for 6 hours straight, going home for Thanksgiving, sitting there in my thoughts, and I'd let the enemy take power over my thoughts. And the enemy would say things to me like, she's not going to be there again. You're going to be really sad. It's never going to be the same anymore. She's not going to be there for your college graduation. She wasn't there for your high school graduation. She's going to miss your wedding. She's never going to see your kids. And it's just like the second you entertain those thoughts, and we've talked a lot about this, but the second you entertain those thoughts, you're sitting there and dwelling in it. It's going to make you depressed. It's going to make you sad. And then it's going to be really hard to get out of that. And I have to say, it's still rather hard. Like Mother's Day was recently. And I'm the type of person, again, I'm an Enneagram 7. I push down emotion. I like to be happy, so I just pretend to be happy. Fake it till you make it, as I say, even though it's not very healthy. And so I came into church because, of course, Mother's Day has to be on a freaking Sunday where I see everybody. It can't just be on like a random Thursday where I don't see anybody. But it's a Sunday, so I sat down, and I'm like, I knew at some point I'd get emotional, and it's just like, okay. And it's like I got a little emotional during praise and worship just by the choice of songs that were being played. And then it's like, I'm fine, okay. And then they had a Mother's Day panel. It was super cute, and it was kind of talking about being moms, and like I was able to kind of like not focus on it. And then they had to bring up like losing a parent, and then I had people comforting me. And I was fine, mind you all. I hadn't been crying at that point. And then it's like when people started comforting me, that's when I started to cry. I'm like, oh crap.
But it's okay to cry.
I don't like to cry though. Let me have my 7-ness and not cry. I think for me it's, and I've talked to my dad about this because of the whole dwelling aspect. I think when I allow myself to cry, I'm dwelling on it, and I don't want to be sad about it anymore. So that's why I don't like crying about it.
But it's inevitable that you're going to be sad.
It is inevitable, and I have a right to be sad. I know all this, but it's like I don't like giving the enemy that power, so I'd rather just not. That's just how I am. I know that's not very healthy, but that's just how I am. Nina's eating her microphone.
was not. I was trying to study it while I did something on the computer.
Anyways, one of our pastors, Pastor Brittany, she came up to me and hugged me and was just like, the Lord just told me to tell you this. It is okay. Oh, I'm not going to cry. It's not going to happen. She said, it's okay to miss her. It's okay to cry. She's like, I know you. You need to cry right now. Just let it out. And I was like, I just told her, I was like, I don't want to. She's like, Stephanie. And so she's like, I'm going to start praying for you. You need to let yourself cry it out. So I cried. I let it out. And then I had people coming up and hug me, which is really nice. But it's weird. Like, it's so weird. In certain situations, I want to be comforted in. And other situations, I don't want people touching me. And so it was like one of those awkward things. It's like people started touching me, and that made me more awkward. And it's like it was all out of love. And it's like I have this thing. I have a bubble. I don't like it when people come into my bubble unless I've welcomed you into my bubble. That's why I hate it when random people pat my head. I get it. I'm 5'3". I get it. I'm short. If I have not let you into my bubble, please never pat my head. To me, it feels very condescending. I'm not a child. Like, our friend Josiah patted me on the head a few weeks ago, and it's like I was making jokes with him about it the other day, and it's like it's fine because I knew he was joking. But there's other people who I'm not close with who do it, and to me it feels condescending. Anyways, off topic. But that's just how I am. I don't like being touched sometimes, and I only realize it in that situation. I could be crying about like me and a friend getting into a fight, and I want someone to hug me. But then it's like other times I'm crying about the same thing, and I don't want people touching me.
Yeah.
And so it's weird. But that was, so yeah. So I made a TikTok on Mother's Day about like the things I do on days like that where it's like inevitable that I'm going to be thinking about it. I'd encourage you to watch it. I did my makeup while I did it, so you can tell me how I did on my makeup. I needed to be busy or I would get emotional. But it's kind of like I said things very similar to this. I try not to dwell on it. I try to do something that honors my mom on days like that, but also won't make me sad. Because it's like I made a comment like, oh, I could watch her favorite movie. But if I know watching her favorite movie is going to make me sit and miss her, then I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
At least by myself. If I'm with people and we're all having fun, that's one thing.
Yeah.
Because like my mom and I's favorite movie to watch together was Mamma Mia. That's a very fun movie. And so if I'm watching with other people, it allows me to have fun in it. When I'm watching it sometimes by myself, on days like that, I can allow myself to
sit in the sadness.
Sit in the sadness. So just being smart like that. Also, my mom died from a disease. So it's like, what can I do to help people with the disease? So it's like, do I have money that I can donate like $5 today and honor her in that aspect? It's like, I do. Awesome. I'm going to do that today.
Or it's like, instead of like going to Chick-fil-A or instead of like going to get coffee, it's like, instead of doing that, setting that money aside to then put towards that.
Yeah, for sure. And it's just like little things like that. And I know like people die for many sorts of reasons, but that's just one thing that I can do because my mom passed away from ALS. And also May is ALS Awareness Month, and I believe it's like June 1st is National ALS Day. And so it's just like it's around the same time, so doing different things like that.
And you did a lot for putting up on your Instagram, and you did a lot of sharing information of like,
because people don't know what it is.
Like, what is this disease? How does that affect people? What can I then do to help? And you did a lot of that, which I will say you did a great job in.
Thank you. I have a highlight.
Educating people.
I have a highlight on my Instagram if you'd like to go look at that. Well, it's so funny because I was looking at my old post because I used to make a post every May 1st about it, and I just copy and paste the same post. And I was reading through the caption of the old one I used to do, and it was like help get rid of this terrible disease that took my mother away from me. It's like I could feel the power in how I wrote it. And I was like, I'm going to rewrite it this year. And I rewrote it as sort of like a thing of, I don't want anyone else to die from this or anyone to have to lose a parent like the way I did from this. So it's like, what can we do? And I was like, I think a big thing this month is like, just learn what it is. Cause I didn't know what ALS was. And I bet you half of the people that did the Ice Bucket Challenge in 2014 still to this day.
I didn't even know that it was for ALS. I literally had zero clue.
It was crazy. My mom died the beginning of June, and the Ice Bucket Challenge literally started 2 weeks later.
That's crazy.
And so it was just like I was getting messages at the hoo-ha because everyone was tagging me and my dad in it, which was lovely, and I appreciate everyone who did that. But it was just like at the time was really hard.
Yeah,
it was just a constant reminder.
Especially so soon after it happened.
I know, but that was the other thing that irritated me about it, because people were just doing it to do it. The whole purpose of the Ice Bucket Challenge was to donate. You would get drenched with ice, but you would donate.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like, I loved Harry Styles did this, and he like donated $1 million or something crazy like that. And he said it while he did it. Like, you can go back and watch it, I'm sure, on YouTube or something. He said, I want this person to do it, this person, and this person to donate with me. I'm donating $1 million to the ALS Foundation.
Yeah.
And then he got drenched with ice. That was the whole purpose of it. So it just irritated me when I saw my friends doing it to do it and not. And I get it. We were all teenagers. We couldn't donate. But at least mention what it's for.
Yeah.
That just went on my own rant. Trying to help other people through loss right now, not myself. So, yeah. So it's just like finding different ways to honor them. To me, just really helps. Because then it's like it still keeps their memory alive. I think that's something that can be super scary about loss, is like one day people not knowing this person. And so it's like, what can I do to keep her memory alive? And it was so nice because also this past Saturday was the anniversary of my mom's death. It's been 9 years. And so on Wednesday at our Kaya, our Wednesday night young adult hangout, I was like, I know we just went through this with me on Mother's Day, and I literally started with, I was like, I'm sorry that I keep having to pray over this, and it's been 9 years, but I just need prayer over my mind prayers of agreement over my mind on Saturday, because at this point, and again, please talk. I feel bad I'm doing all the talking right now. I've talked about this during my testimony podcast. I used to use it as an excuse to get people to feel sorry for me so that way they'd want to hang out with me. So I go back to feeling insecure whenever I bring it up, because I'm like, I don't want these people to think that I'm trying to get attention.
Yeah.
And so that's what I felt like on that Wednesday. I was like, I was like debating. I'm like, I'll be fine. It's another year. I'll be fine. And I was like, I would like prayer.
And there's nothing wrong with asking for prayer for that. And like,
I understand.
To like just affirm you in that, like, we as your friends know that, like, we know that the last thing you want is to sit there and feel sad, and you don't want, like, I could even tell that on Mother's Day, you didn't want people feeling sorry for you.
Yeah.
And like, I know that, and so it's like,
let's go have fun.
yeah. So like, in knowing you and knowing that, like, we as your friends know that there are things that are going to be difficult for you that are not as hard for us. Like, Mother's Day, difficult for me this year because I'm not with my mom. But she's still alive. You know what I mean? So it's a different thing. Like Cam said the same thing. His mom isn't physically here because we don't live near each other. But it's like, it's good that, one, you have motherly figures in your life, which is awesome. But it still doesn't compare to having her there. You know what I mean? So it's like, obviously we know that there are things that are going to be hard for you. So it's like, we never think that you're just reaching for attention in that at all.
Yeah. No.
Just know that.
Oh, I do know that. I'm getting phlegmy again. I apologize. But there's a lot of things that were said over me that really helped me through that. Like, I think Donovan, our friend Donovan, who helps lead the group, just says, like, you're fine. Like, God's going to show you different ways of honoring her. And then, like, Georgie told me something. She's like, the Lord has given you her best quality. She's like, I don't know who she is, but I also at the same time feel like I know who she is because I know all your best qualities are from her. Because it's very obvious to see what qualities come from my father.
Oh my gosh, don't say that negatively.
I don't say it negatively. I'm just like, it's very obvious. My dad and I are very loud people. We're very outgoing. Like, it's very obvious the parts of me that are my father. And so I say that with love because I love my dad. But it's like there are other parts of me that are very different from my father, and that was all my mom. And so I was like, I didn't think about it that way. And, and so different things like that.
I think that the way that I think is cool, the way that you do it, like the way that you do honor your mom. And I think Jude said it best. Like, your mom would be very proud of you for the way that she is going
about that. I hated him for saying that to me.
Okay, but like,
I loved him.
Yeah,
I'll tell
but
the
it's
story
like
after.
Knowing that, you are consciously putting an effort to do things that would honor your mother, even though she's not here. I think that that's something that's really commendable that you do. Yeah,
it becomes second nature. What Nina was referring to was on Mother's Day, I went to the bathroom because I have a small bladder. And I had to pee halfway through service. And also, it was kind of like a second of getting up without people touching me. And Judy came out over to me and gave me a hug. And it was very loving, but I'm just going to say, because I was okay at that point, and then I started bawling. He was like, I just wanted to tell you, he's like, I don't know what to say. All I do know to say is she'd be so proud of you. And that's what I'm like, stop. I literally hate you. Stop. And he just confirmed me in a lot of things and just kind of stood there with me for a second. And it was like, I appreciate that.
I'm also mad because you made me cry.
I was like, I'm mad because you made me, my 7's like, why'd you do this to me? But it's like, that's the kind of friends we have. And so that was very, very nice. And even finding out after him going up to everybody, it's like, how can we make Stephanie's day better?
Mm-hmm.
I did not have that after Mom died.
Yeah.
I had to go out and pretend, or like I had to go out and like feel sorry for myself to get people to want to do things like that for me. And it's like, I have friends that do it so intentionally.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't do that to begin with nowadays because I'm not insecure like I was when I was younger. But it was just nice.
Yeah.
And I just felt very appreciated that day. I felt like people were really thinking about me. And that was the thing. And that's like another thing I think helps with loss is having a good community around you that will help you through those moments of loss.
I definitely agree. I can speak a little bit on loss from a different standpoint because having not lost somebody like my parent, you know, but having lost 3 out of 4 of my grandparents, very different scenario because I feel like a lot of people do. Everybody deals with loss at some point in their life, but the way for me that worked out the way that I got over things the fastest, and not that you need to get over it because I'm not
forward.
Yes, that's the word I'm looking for. The way that I moved forward from it the fastest, because I was very close with my grandparents, was knowing where they were going. And I think that, like you said it earlier, God is so happy when somebody joins his kingdom with him and they're physically there with them.
Yeah.
But knowing for my end, because my grandparents were older, they were both in their 80s. So it's like death comes inevitably at some point in your life, not like your mom died younger, you know? So it's different.
My mom was young.
Yeah. So it's such a different thing. So it's like when I lost my grandparents, it's like that's inevitable. That's going to happen at some point to me. But I think the one thing that really got me through it was knowing where they were going and that like I was going to see them again. And then again, it's not the same because it's not my parent who I'm ultimately closer with. It's still somebody that I was close with. And so it's just knowing where they're headed and knowing that ultimately at the end of the day, they're at so much more peace and comfort and they're not sitting in that, like whatever they were dealing with in the hurt and like the pain that they were suffering through. So it's just from my point of view, having dealt with it in a completely different setting than you have, that got me through a lot of that.
Yeah. What's funny is I knew all of that, but because I wasn't right with God, because I was so mad, it's like I knew that. And I'm like, that's awesome that she's okay, but you could have made her okay on earth. I still have a lot of resentment. So, but that is, I mean, I just really screamed into the mic there. I think if you're working through your relationship with God,
it's hard.
It's hard. It's a hard thing. And I mean, I can say for my father spoke openly about this. He was about to turn, I think he was literally about to turn 59 before she passed, and he had difficulty with his relationship with God.
Sure.
And my dad's the most spiritual full person I know. And so and it's gonna be challenging. There was another point I wanted to make and I totally forgot what it was.
I think it's also different because when it's somebody like your grandparents and they're older, like you expect that. Mm-hmm. You don't expect that from your mother when you were so young. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it's also like people are like, oh, it must have been so nice because you had time. It's like,
but it still doesn't make it any easier because it wasn't something you were expecting.
Yeah. Well, it's like some people, I can understand it because I know friends, like my friend in college who lost her dad. It happened it wasn't like he was sick, and I won't go into specifics because that's not my story to tell, but it happened really fast, unexpectedly. And so it took her by shock. I knew it was going to happen. Now, does it make it any easier? No. And that's the thing that I don't like is when people say it must have been nice because at least you got to say goodbye. And now, if someone like my friend said that to me who didn't get to say goodbye to her parent, I respect it because I understand what she's going through. I did get to say goodbye to my mom. It didn't mean it was any less harder.
Yeah.
And also, I had to see my mother wilt her away in front of me.
Yeah.
And that was something that that other friend wouldn't have had to go through.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was like, when it's so hard because it's like I look back on memories, and because I was so young, memories obviously fade. And so it's like my stronger memories are when she was sick, and that's not the way I like to remember her by. And it's like I can still remember other things, of course, but it's just like that was not who she was. And so that's the thing.
Yeah.
That can be quite challenging with it.
Yeah.
Man, I had another point and it was so good and I don't remember what it was.
Well, while you think, I have a question.
Okay.
If you could pick one verse or one passage of the Bible that you think would be probably the most beneficial for somebody who's going through loss or grief, do you think you have one?
It's so basic. Jeremiah 29:11. It's so basic, but it's that was the one that got me through. I think there might have been another one. I don't remember. Again, it was when I first was going through all of that, it was hard because I wasn't super close with God. So mine were like a lot of sayings, a lot of quotes. Like you'll never move on, but you can move forward. I think that's such a strong statement. I think there's a lot of stories though in the Bible about loss that, like if you, my first thought when I think of like someone passing away in the Bible, I think of Lazarus, even though he did come back from the dead. But if you read through that whole entire story, you know that Lazarus was one of Jesus's friends. Jesus loved him. When Jesus walked into the house, right before as Jesus was walking into the house, Jesus knew as he was walking into the house that Lazarus was about to be raised from the dead. But he still walked in there and he wept. He mourned with Lazarus' family because he was sad.
He loved his friend. And so I think that's like another thing to remind her is like, Jesus wept too. But
it's just confirmation that it's okay to mourn, because I think a lot of people who are very like me who don't want to be sad, it's like, we kind of use that as an excuse. It's like, well, Jesus raised Lazarus from the dead. It's like, but Jesus also mourned Lazarus too, even though he knew what he was about to do. And so that kind of also, for me now, if I were to lose someone now, I feel like that story, and even though that's a kind of a harder story, that moment in the Bible really kind of helps me a lot through that. I also think of like people like Naomi and Ruth.
Yeah.
They lost, like, Naomi lost she lost her husband, she lost all of her sons. Ruth lost her husband. And then it's like all of a sudden you end up living the rest of your life with your mother-in-law. Like that to me, that story is such a powerful story because for one, it's about two very strong women, and I love a good story in the Bible about women. Like I love the story of Esther, my favorite book of the Bible. I know that to the end, to the front and the back. But that's another story for me that I think is a really good one because it's like the after effects of loss,
and also staying with your commitments, like
staying with your commitments
with Naomi, you know?
Yeah.
The Ecclesiastes thing you were talking about earlier, the passage in the Bible is Ecclesiastes 3:1-8, just if anybody wanted to go look that up. But I just wanted to say that. But yeah, I think that's good. Do you have any other pearls of wisdom that you would like to
I had
share?
something and I'm trying to remember what it was. I mean, I can say from someone who's lost someone super close, and it's like I have anniversaries that come out throughout the year. I was telling this to our friend group. The summer can be challenging because it's like May I have Mother's Day, June I have the anniversary of her death, July I have her birthday.
Yeah.
So it's one thing after the next. I don't get a break. And then also May is ALS Awareness Month. June 1st is National ALS Day. So it's just like I have constant reminders throughout the summer that my mom is no longer with us. And so I think this was what I think I was trying to remember. Be vocal when you know you're going to be sad to your support system, but don't do it to seek attention.
Yeah.
There's a big difference because I know, because I've done both. I sat down with you maybe a day or two before Mother's Day. I was just like, you've never done a Mother's Day with me before.
Yeah.
As my best friend, this is what's going to happen. I may get sad. What I need from that day, and I knew you also weren't going to have your mom, so it's like, what I need is I need us to do something fun.
Yeah.
I can't be alone on that day.
And we went to the pool.
We found things to do.
Yeah, we did.
And so that was nice. Similarly, though I spent most of Saturday alone, I knew we were going to the drive-in Saturday night.
Yes.
So it was like, this past Saturday was the anniversary of my mom's death. So it's like having something to look forward to. For me, again, like I said, it's easy for me to dwell because I'm very in my thoughts. I can be very in my thoughts.
Yes.
So it's being vocal with your support system, just being like, hey, this date is coming up. And this is just what I need to do to cope and not to sit and dwell in sadness. It's like, is anyone free Saturday? Because I would like to not be by myself. And this is why. And even if everybody's busy, it's like, okay, they're not ignoring you. They just have lives. It's just, but people are still aware. And it's like, so I made that comment. One of our friends was so nice and brought me flowers. I had someone text in our group chat just like saying like, we love you, Steph. Like, it's like little things like that. Yeah. Just knowing that even though those people were busy that day, that they still loved me, they still supported me. The more you can openly talk about your feelings to your support system, the better. Because that won't lead you down. Because I've gone through passive depression. I've gone through really bad anxiety. And the more you bottle things in, the worse it gets. And the best way the best way you can move forward from that is to tell somebody.
Yeah.
And that's in any form of anxiety or depression. I was just reading a book about someone who had started getting depression after her baby was born. So it's just like, postpartum depression. So it's just like little things like that. It's just like the easiest way to move forward from that is just to tell somebody.
Yeah. And
it may be hard because you may not have a strong support system, and that's what the church needs to be. And I know it's not for a lot of people. So it's like if you're in a church and you don't have a good community there, you need to find another church. God will place the right and you need to pray. I prayed. I was thinking, I'm just in a season of gratitude. Also, my phone is blowing up right now. What the heck is happening? Okay, I'm putting my phone on Do Not Disturb right now because my watch keeps buzzing.
And then there's me getting 0 texts.
Yeah, no, I don't even know what it was from. And now I lost my train of thought. My short-term memory.
You were in a season of gratitude.
Oh, yes. The Lord's really put a season of gratitude over me because I've had a lot happen this year and a lot of changes. And I feel like for once I've been able to be still. And I was talking with somebody, or maybe a group of us, about how I had been praying for our friend group for years. I just didn't know.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. I remember being in high school and feeling like I had nobody, because I kind of didn't. No offense to the people in high school. It's just, I think we can all agree. We were just trying to get through high school. I felt very insecure in school. And so, Courtney and Emily, if you're listening to this, you're excluded from that. I just want to let you know. My only two friends I really talk to from high school. I have a couple, but they're my main ones. But and like high school, I'd be like, Lord, I just really want good friends that love me, and like I don't have to be the one that reaches out to them. They can reach out to blah blah blah. Would be in college and I thought that was all my college friends, and the Lord blessed me with those people in my life then. But then it's like junior year, all my friends started to date each other. So then it's like, Lord, I want that community. And then the next year, the Lord blessed me with another community. But then it wasn't until recently, I realized that this, and the Lord told me this, is like, this was the friend group that you were waiting for. And I was like, wow, that took you
took a while, but
took you like a decade, but it's fine because these friends were worth the wait. And so it's just like, if you are in a season of loss and you feel like you don't have a community, you need to pray for it, because God will bring those right people, and God will bring people into your life right away if you let him, that will make an impact on your life. They may not be the community right then, but they're going to help get you through this season, and eventually you're going to be put into such a great community. That's why I pray for my husband, because it's like we've talked about this. It's like, I'm done dating guys I know are going to hurt me, because I know one day I'm going to have the right guy who's going to be the one that the Lord has for me, that check off all my boxes, and I check off all of his boxes, and it's going to be worth the wait. It's like, if I would have known, if I could go back in time and talk to my younger self and tell my friends and tell my younger self about the friend group I have now, it would make it exciting, because then it's like, oh, I can't wait for that. I can't wait because I know it's there. I know I'm eventually going to have it. It's going to get me through those seasons. But that's not how our life works, sadly. But yeah, just having a really strong community, I think, is one of the most important things you can do during that season, whether they knew that person or not. I also believe in counseling. I believe in seeking Christian counseling.
I believe everybody needs counseling.
I believe in Christian counseling if you can get it. I think grief counseling is very powerful. I think depends when you have it, though, and who you have it with. I didn't really get... I started getting counseling. So I had grief counseling right after Mom died, but our counselors were 2 people from our church who knew my mom. So it's like they were also mourning my mom. Mm-hmm. Not saying that they... and then also I think it was too soon after my mom died for me to be going through grief counseling. But then it's like I started doing counseling my senior year of high school, and I think for me that was the most beneficial, because by that point it had been a little over a year, and I knew I was about to go off to school.
Yeah.
And so I think I was able to process things a little bit more. And so it's like, but having that and having the Christian perspective behind it and having your counselor pray over you, I think is really strong. So finding those, I think, is also, again, I keep saying it, just talk about it.
Yeah.
Talking is good.
Yeah. Well, anyways.
She was a heavy one, and I'm sorry I talked the most of it.
You have...
I sadly have the most amount of experience in it. So
I think just one thing to remember is that the Lord is our comforter.
Yes.
And, as it says in Matthew 5:4, blessed are those who mourn, and they will be comforted.
Yeah.
So remembering that the Lord is our comforter, just like Steph said, you need to be seeking that relationship with him.
Yeah.
And it's still going to be hard, but, the Lord is there to comfort you.
Yeah.
And he's there to mourn with you.
Yeah. And it's like, it was so crazy. Shortly after my mom died, one of our pastors at the time, they knew of this little girl who had like flatlined and died, and she came back and she's like, I was in heaven, kind of like, I know there's been several movies and stuff like that, or about kids going to heaven and things like this, but this girl, I think she was like 8 years old, and this happened to her, and she talked about seeing her family members and different things like that, and she was in and out of the spirit so much, and I hope she still has it. I kind of lost connection with that family, but she made a comment to my pastor or to somebody and said, I was in heaven with Jesus, and this woman came up on the white horse Jesus is gonna ride down on Judgment Day, and she had a pixie cut. It was my mom. She was explaining my mother, and it was so emotional. And then they told us, and it's just like, she was just saying she was just so happy. She's like, I've never seen someone so happy to ride a horse before. And it was just confirmation that my mom is so freaking, that woman is so much happier up where she is. I have it's almost like, why the heck am I mourning? She's fine. She's so happy right now up where she is. So that to me is really comforting. So not saying that's going to happen to everybody, but it's just picturing them the healthiest and happiest you remember them. Mm-hmm. That's how they are up in heaven. Yeah. And so that to me,
spiritual bodies,
that's to me, brings so much comfort. So I just imagine her riding up on that white horse with all of her animals, just living her best life. And that brings me so much comfort.
But yeah. Awesome. Well, anyways,
that was the episode. Sorry it was a little heavy.
Thanks.
Sorry we weren't very organized.
Well,
it's a heavy topic.
Yeah. How are you supposed to really be prepared?
Yeah. So, yeah. But anyways, if you guys have any questions, or if you've gone through loss or anything, please comment down below.
Yeah.
We want this community to know that you are not alone.
And you're prayed for.
And all of those good things.
Yeah.
And we will be back, I'm sure, next week with something a little less heavy and something that we can both talk on, not
Yeah.
just me. But I appreciate all of Nina's inputs.
Yeah.
So, yay.
Anyways, yo, I hope y'all have a great rest of your day.
Bye.
Bye.